so we're going to talk about under Canopy, which includes break-off tracking and deployment, and of course, under Canopy.
Okay, cool. So it's good to see everybody. So I'm going to talk about the free fall, deployment, and canopy portion of our skydive. First thing we're going to touch on is very important is the break-off, right? So like Danny was saying before, we want to have our skydive planned. This is going to include our break-off altitude. Before we get in the aircraft, we should have everything planned out. You know, sometimes circumstances apply where maybe you have to pull break off a little bit higher, like possibly maybe you're in free fall and you notice someone's pilot chute is hanging halfway out. You might want to give them a sign and break off just to give them some airspace. The best thing to do in that scenario, I would say, is if you need to break off and give someone some room, I would still go down to your normal pole height, just so there's not all of a sudden parachutes in the sky higher than we're expecting. Tracking, one of the most important tools of our skydive is tracking, because obviously we need to get a lot of separation from each other to have a lot of space to open up safely. The best way to track is another thing, like Danny said, is you want to kind of pay attention where everybody is in the air. So I'll kind of take note of where everybody is, center of the formation, turn 180 and track away. I like to personally turn it on as hard as I can, and you want to try and track as straight as possible. One thing to keep in mind is you don't want to be tracking up and down the jump run, right? Because we want to stay out of each other's airspace. So you never want to go directly up jump run, unless of course if you're the last group, then your up jump run will be clear. But other than that, you want to always have that in mind. Me personally, when I'm tracking, I'll actually do a barrel roll just to make sure my airspace is clear. I don't recommend doing that unless you're proficient and you've done that and you know you can do it. But you want to give yourself a look above, make sure there's no one above you. If someone's below you, you might want to pull a little quicker, give a wave, you know, just like we do to show people that we're about to open the parachute. Yeah. For deployment, when I'm deploying, obviously you always want to have your head on a swivel, right? So as I'm opening up, I'm also kind of looking around and making sure no one's in my immediate airspace. If this is the case, you're going to want to get in your own airspace as right away. So you're going to be wanting to get on your rears to do any turns that you need to do. Always remember our turn right rule. So if we're ever in a situation where we're going in a head-on collision, turn right, make sure you yell out, turn right, so whoever you see there can hear you as well. As long as everyone always does that, we should be good to go. Yeah, and under canopy, so pretty much, you know, once you're in your clean airspace, this is where you want to do your flight control check. You know, give her a couple turns, maybe even check it out, make sure you haven't broken a line or something that you don't notice by feel, but by actually physically looking at your parachute, making sure it's in good order. Obviously, once you know you're in clear air, you're going to want to take, okay, so where's our landing area, right? You don't want to be playing around and all of a sudden you're out over a bunch of trees, landing somewhere you don't want to be landing. And one thing that I kind of wanted to mention is we really need to like try and have separation between everybody for landing, right? So we're gonna have a bit of a smaller landing area, so it'd be nice to have everybody have their own path in. So I think the more separation we can give each other, the better we'll be. You want to kind of think about wing loading as well. Sometimes, like, you know, the first group out is belly flyers. A lot of times they'll have a bigger parachute, a lower wing loading. So if you see a guy with a 90 who's in the group after you, and you know that he can overtake you easily, maybe it's smart to put on your brakes and let him get down. And just like kind of always watch where everybody's at, and just try and keep a safe amount of separation for landing. We want to avoid the spirals, right? You don't want to be the guy who, you know, one guy will do a turn getting down, and all of a sudden you see this guy spiraling down to your level when you just did a turn to try and get out of his way. So I think, and especially with the landing area we have this year, we want to focus more on landing safe than, like, you know, obviously we're having fun as well, but safety should always be our top concern. Remember the rateaways. So lower canopy will always have the rateaway because of the fact that he can't see you, you can see him. Students, if we got any newer skydivers, which I don't think we will, well, we might be, but you want to give students lots of room if you can. And obviously, if you ever see a reserve out there, that guy's already having quite the skydive, so give him lots of room and let him get down safely. I think I've kind of touched on everything. Does anybody have any questions for us?
I'm just going to mute myself there, Jesse. No worries.
Nervous too, by the way. Nervous.
I don't see any hands up. Anybody got a question for Jesse? All right, Jesse, thank you so much. If you guys end up with any questions you think about during,
thank you very much.
Put them in the chat and I'll help you out.
Oh,
Thanks.
I did actually just want to mention one last thing. Am I still on here?
Yeah, you are.
So obviously, look out for each other. Like, everybody look out for each other. If you see any hanging pilot chutes, I know we mentioned before, you can never do too many handle checks. And let's just have a fun skydive, right? A fun, safe skydive season. And yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. I'll get you to mute yourself if you don't mind.